What's going on, everyone? Chrissy with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal, and today we are headed to do a smallish construction debris removal from the front yard of one of my neighbor's houses. They got my name from driving by my house every day and always seeing me with the trailer sorting through junk. So I went by yesterday, gave them a quote. They're like, cool, let's do it. And they said that they're gonna have a second pile equal size probably within a month. I told them I'd give them a few bucks off since it's gonna be like a repeat client. And then after that, we're gonna be helping a family member move some bulky items from their house to a storage unit. And then after that, I wanna talk a little bit about the trailer. So we're coming up on my 1 year since I bought the trailer. Before that, I used to use U-Hauls. And I wanted to kind of talk about what I think are the pros and cons of a trailer, the struggles I faced in the beginning, the things I learned I didn't know I was gonna have a problem with eventually. I want to talk about the build, so like the wall build, like kind of the thoughts behind it, how we got to where it's at, you know, the modifications we used to kind of help make sure it was secure, the approximate cost, stuff like that. So if you've ever been curious about my trailer build, because it's not a common build, you don't see a lot of aluminum built on utility trailers. So if you're curious about that, stay tuned until later. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to try to figure out an approximate cost factor of how much I've saved using the trailer versus getting versus like continuing on with the U-Hauls. And then I also want to talk about kind of like future, you know, kind of what I would do in the future considering the fact of what I know now. So we're about to pull up to this job and I will see you guys afterwards. All right, so we were at the job. He ended up running a business errand, so I'm basically gonna be here alone the whole time. So went ahead and got in the driveway, put our safety cones out because people are crazy. We got all of our trash bins here because my 2 rolly bins are in the storage unit full of glass. But this is everything here, so I don't have to take these. Otherwise, these bags are all full of drywall and insulation, so no tile, nothing too heavy. All these drywall pieces with the aluminum scraps attached to it, all that wood, I'm just gonna throw in the trash bins. We'll bag up the insulation, and then the lamp will get scrapped. I'm not gonna go crazy with ripping off every single aluminum piece, but I'll grab the ones that are a little bit easier, and I'll go ahead and put them away in one of these containers. So let's get started. right, so that job is complete. It took about an hour and 15 minutes, give or take. He gave me about half of it in cash because he was running out the door. I mean, he's a neighbor, so I'm just gonna get money from him after. And then I have steel toe boots, but I don't think they're puncture resistant on the soles. I need to get some of those. If you saw like in that first clip, I immediately stepped on a nail and it went through and put my foot. It didn't get in my skin, luckily, and it hit exactly where I had like a pre-existing blister from kickboxing that really tore up my toe. So luckily it didn't puncture because it was a rusty little Phillips head screw. But I need to get some of those shoes. I just hate like how heavy they feel, so like after a long day, like your feet are sore. At least that's how I felt. I used to wear them in moving for like 6 months, and then I was like, screw this, and I went back to running shoes. But I might try to pick up some. I know they have like lightweight athletic shoes that are still puncture resistant on the bottom. That might be an ideal situation. But I stepped on like six or seven nails, and like 3 or 4 of them like got through the sole, so like I felt the pressure, but it didn't puncture all the way. But I like to charge. No, I don't like to charge, but I charge a little extra when I see there's nails sticking out of all the wood for that exact reason. Like I know that now I'm running a risk of getting poked in my hands or my arms by nails or stepping on them, so you're just increasing your risk. So if I see that, I'll usually I'll tack on just like a small amount, just to kind of help make up for like the risk of it. Obviously it's not going to pay for itself if I have to go get a tetanus shot, but it's gonna like just help make it a little easier. So we're gonna go ahead to the dump now, and then we will come back and go over the trailer and all of the modifications and all the stuff I was talking about earlier. All right, quick little update. I went on Amazon and looked up the puncture resistant shoes. I did find an athletic pair. So they're puncture resistant on the bottom, steel toe on the top, $48.99. So not a bad price, pretty much $10 more than Walmart. So I'm gonna go ahead and order them, and I'll let you know how they work. $54 later. Ugh, I hate construction debris. It's so heavy, it's so expensive. There's a state trooper at the scale house. The truck said commercial vehicle enforcement. I don't know what that. I hope they don't try to come after me for anything. All right. So while we're waiting in the dump line, because we're probably gonna be here for about half hour or so, figure I'd go ahead and go over some of the details with the trailer that are pretty fixed pricing, and stuff like that. So I purchased the trailer back in May of 2022, and I spent about a month practicing driving with it before I took it out on the street. Like I said before, I had never driven a trailer before. I utilized the mall parking lot that was next to me, and I went at nighttime, and for like a half hour to an hour a day, a couple of times a week, I would practice just backing into spaces and just parallel parking and just getting a hang of backing it up. Backing it up was the hardest thing for me. And I heard that the longer the trailer and the heavier it is, the easier it is to back up with because there's less sway. And I can definitely attest that is correct. So that was probably one of the more difficult things upon learning about the trailer. So we bought it in May. I pretty much got it for like $2,500, and then after registration and fees and taxes and the license plate, stuff like that, it ended up being like $2,900. And I bought it local too. I didn't go to a different state to save $500 or anything. And then I got the build done by my brother, who owns a fabrication company, who is also local. I don't think I got any special discounts on pricing. I think I got a special as far as availability goes, because they kind of worked on the trailer at the end of each day and got me out in like 2 weeks because they were just like booked for months. So I didn't get any special pricing, but I did get a special on timing. But that was pretty much $3,000 for the entire build plus the custom sign on the back of the trailer. And then about a week or about a month later, I got the trailer wrapped. So that's like the white wrap you see. And I got that through a connection I made when I worked at the moving company. It's a small local business that does wraps. But that was, I think, $1,650 for the total wrap. So all in all, for the trailer, just for like the build and the trailer itself, you're looking at about $7,500. And then I did make some like little adjustments and like some like add-ons and features and stuff that I did over time, which we'll talk about when we do the actual walk around the trailer. Getting into the pros and cons, in my opinion. So the pros, it's easier to store than a box truck because it's less daunting. It's not like this whole big thing, and it's not like a giant dump truck. It's multi-purposed, so like you rentals with it, you can realistically use it for anything. Like even if I close up shop, I can still use a trailer for like side moves or junk removal like on the side. You can use it for landscaping, you can use it for storage, whatever you want to do. So I feel like it's just a little more multi-purposed. I also like the fact that it has a ramp so that I can just walk up it with a dolly. It's easier to load. That's one of the cons I heard about dump trailers is you're pretty much almost 3 feet in the air. So everything you have to lug into the back of the truck. Or, you know, if you have like a lift gate attached or like a ramp or something, if you have a junk truck, that's one thing. But I see a lot of people like hand loading because they can't use like a dolly to get stuff on it. So I definitely think that it's a lot easier using the ramp. It obviously gets the job done, and I think it's a little bit more of an affordable option, considering like a trailer you could buy used for probably $500 to $2,000 for a decent trailer. It might be a little beat up. I personally don't like the idea of buying used when it comes to a trailer. I'm not even super experienced with it. I just think it's a bad idea because you don't know what the frame and the axle and the condition of it really is. You're only going off of looks. But it's definitely a more affordable option than it was to go out and buy a box truck. Because I was looking at like U-Hauls, and U-Hauls, I mean, for a 15-foot truck, you're looking at like $9,000 to $13,000, and it's going to be at least 100,000 miles. Like, you know, the transmission, everything's going to be shot on it. The condition of the body itself is going to be a little iffy. Even U-Haul rates all of their trucks 2 out of 5 stars as far as like maintenance goes. They just already know that everything's going to be screwed up on it. So I mean, a junk truck brand new is like 90,000 nowadays. You can buy one used for like 45, 50, but I don't know if I would buy a used one from like 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I just imagine it's going to be run into the ground. And I heard that they're not very good with doing maintenance on them either. So I feel like you're really shooting your shot there with that. So I just think it's a little bit more affordable, more likely to achieve longevity, and it's easy maintenance. The only thing you have with the trailer is the tires. You know, you pump the grease on the axle every now and then, and you don't overload the crap out of it, and try not to hit too many curbs. Otherwise, it's just the tires that you really have. Everything else is pretty, you know, self-sustaining. Now, getting into the cons of it, maneuverability in tight spaces is obviously tricky no matter how good of a driver you are. There's basically 2 coverages when it comes to insurance. You know, I'm insuring the vehicle and then I'm insuring the truck. They're 2 separate vehicles. So it does mess with insurance a little bit. I screwed up by getting a single axle. I should have got a double axle. I was not familiar at the time and I didn't think it was like a big deal. So that was my fault. But I should have gotten a double axle so I can cover more weight. And then from what I've learned, as you saw in my last video with people almost hitting me, is it's very accident prone. You know, you throw a trailer on the back, the truck can stop, but the trailer's moving with it. If I had like a dump trailer that had, you know, brakes built into it, that's one thing. But just pulling like the utility trailer, you know, it's a lot harder to stop. You have a sway with it. You know, the trailer can sway, but the truck is still going straight. So you really have to be mindful of the lines on the road, on like when you're traveling. And I saw a couple YouTube videos where if a trailer flips, the truck's going with it. So that's kind of scary to think about. So I definitely just think it's a little tricky. I think people, like, they'll see the truck, but they don't see the trailer right away, which is stupid even because it's such a long piece. So I definitely think it's a little accident prone, and you just really have to be like mindful of that. So those are kind of the pros and cons to me, and that's kind of like the general pricing. What the hell is going on? There's like 4 people out of their trucks just waiting. So those are the pros and cons for me as far as a trailer goes. I think cost-wise, I think in the first month when I was actually using it for jobs, I think I did like 1,500 miles or something, which U-Haul plus gas, I think it came out to like, I ended up saving like, I think a little under $2,000 in mileage and gas purposes. And then obviously every time you go to get a truck, I think I found an average price for everything. I think I ended up saving like $3,000 like in my first like month or two of having the truck with the trailer. So I mean, figure for a whole year, that's like a $30,000 savings, give or take, is what I would estimate it for. So basically the trailer is paid for itself, you know, 10 times over. Heading into the future, I might plan on getting a double axle, but I think I'm gonna do a 7x14. I'm not gonna do a dump trailer. I thought about it. I even talked about it. At the end of the day, I don't find it very challenging to offload these trucks. Like, it's really easy. Like, I don't think I've ever taken me more than 20 minutes to offload a trailer, and that's only when I have like a full trailer load full construction debris. Like this job now, I'll probably have it offloaded like in 10 minutes, and that's like not super rushing. So I think some people just get lazy with it. I could see it being beneficial if you're going to do rentals and people are going to just be chucking stuff in there, and you know, you're going to have to sit there and pick up individual items because they don't take the time to bag stuff. I think it could be beneficial for that. Otherwise, unless you do like a ton of construction debris or like you're handling like concrete or bricks or something, I don't think it's like a dire like difference. And on top of that, it's going to be more expensive insurance wise because now it's mechanical. It's going to be heavier in weight, which means that I may eventually have to get a more heavy duty truck so I don't, you know, run it into the ground so quickly. And then it's obviously going to cost a lot more money. So I think I'm just going to do a 7x14. I'm going to do the exact same build on it. I talked about wood last time. I think I'm just going to go with the aluminum route and do the build, get it wrapped, and then I'll use my current trailer as a rental, and I'll use the 7x14 as my everyday use. Increase my price a little bit because obviously my cubic footage is going to be increasing. So that's kind of the game plan, but I definitely think double axle is the way to go. And as far as like the attachment I've done and like the little features I've added, I'll talk about some of those a little bit more in detail because I plan on doing the same thing but kind of improvising a little bit better too, to really maximize just like the efficiency of how I operate with the trailer. So when we finally get through this dump line and get back to the house, I'll talk about the build itself, kind of the thoughts behind it, what we did to make it a little bit more affordable and lightweight, and some of the features we made to make it get a little bit more durable to handle like weather resistance and heavier loads. So stay tuned for that. All right, so that was the walk around of the trailer. Inside the trailer, the things we've added on is the roll tarp, which ended up being one of my better purchases. Before I was using cargo nets and attaching them to these D-rings, and it was just a pain. So this has definitely been super helpful. This is actually bigger than the trailer. It's actually a 7x14. And the reason why I went with a bigger tarp, because the trailer is only 6.5x12, is that figure if you're standing stuff up and you're gonna have a canopy like this, that extra room is gonna get spread out. So I don't have to worry about it, you know, being pushed all over here. So that's why we went bigger. A little add-on I did was I attached these D-rings, which I'm gonna replace soon because you can see they're starting to kind of get rusty. I added these throughout the trailer, pretty much every quarter of a truck. And I went ahead and did it on the bottom too. And the idea behind it is to run ratchet straps from side to side to hold things in place, or to do an X with ratchet straps in case I want to hold in something vertically. It kind of helps with the compaction. So those are like the main things I did. I'm probably going to go ahead and make a couple of extra as well, just so it makes it easier. Kind of gives me more options with tying this down, because sometimes I have to run a bungee like from there to here just to kind of hold it down if I have something sitting on the side like this. So that's something we'll probably be doing soon. So the whole trailer is aluminum sheeting. So they just ordered a bunch of aluminum sheets and cut them to size and then mended them like so, bolted them into the trailer, bolted them together just using a screw and nut. And then, ooh, look who's here. We got college hunks in the neighborhood. I have never seen another moving truck in this neighborhood before, except for me. I actually moved in when my girlfriend moved here. I actually moved in our next door neighbor. It was like a heck of a quinkadink. And since then, I like never see moving trucks in this neighborhood. So I'm assuming they're moving. They wouldn't be doing junk removal on that big of a truck. Anyways, back to this. So they went ahead and did this little T-frame up here just to make it a little extra secure for the top rail, just so it doesn't, you know, warp out so much. So that's why it's kind of double layered here like that. And then these little plates here are bolted into this. So that's what these are going into. They're bolted into right here. So it hugs it to the trailer itself. And then on the front side, we went ahead and did this steel corner bracket and just welded it to the actual base. And the reason for this is to help with wind draft. So it makes the front end a little bit more secure because that's getting the wind force directly pushed at it. So it's just a little extra securement. All right, so we came inside because it's getting a little windy out, it's getting cloudy out. I think it's gonna rain soon, so I wasn't sure if you guys could even hear me anymore. But as far as that trailer goes, the original idea behind it was how can we make it sturdy, lightweight, and look really good? Like I want it to be clean. That's why I have a white trailer. Like that's why my company is white with blue. Like white represents a clean space. And I wanted that to be the look of the junk truck. You don't see a lot of white junk removal trucks anywhere, unless you have like a big box truck. So I definitely think it helps stand out. And I was gonna originally do a wood build and just do like 1x8s and like 12 feet long, and then use 4x4 posts at the corners for bracing, and then do 2x4s like every couple of feet as like support beams. And what I was gonna do on the outside to make it look clean and flush was to basically caulk the gaps in between each board, like with a seal bond or something, sand down the whole thing so it's nice and smooth, and then paint it white with a good coat and just do multiple coats. So it gives off like a nice, smooth, clean finish. And then just use like a sealant on the inside and everything just to help like further protect the wood. So that was the original idea. I did like all the pricing for it all the way down to like the screws and the caulk and everything and the paint. And it came out to like $650. And I think the build itself would be pretty quick. I think the paint and the decals would be the harder part. So that was the original idea, but I wanted to stand out a little bit. Everyone does wood, even though I was gonna go the extra mile and like sand it down and paint it white and make it look smooth. I ended up just asking my brother, I was like, hey, you know, how much would it be to put like 4-foot sides around the trailer? And he was like, well, I can just order you, you know, 4.5-foot aluminum sheets, and then we can just go ahead and we'll mend all of the top and bottoms. And, you know, I'll put some bracing on it to help protect it from the wind. And it ended up being a little under $3,000. And I was like, all right, you know, because I was thinking, if you buy a trailer that already has the size built on, in my area, a 6.5 by 12 foot double axle with 4-foot sides is like $9,500. That's not even like mechanical. That's just the thing itself. And then if you were to get a single axle, I think it's like $8,900. So it's like a little under $1,000 less. And then if you want a dump trailer with the 4-foot sides on it, it's like $13,000. So I was like, at that point, I might as well just try to do this myself. It'll give it a more lightweight look to it. I think the total weight's like 425 pounds. So we definitely didn't add a whole lot to it. It's actually probably lighter than what the wood would have been. And it was something that, you know, I get a lot of compliments on, you know, whether it's other junk haulers or if it's customers, they're like, wow, that's a really nice looking trailer, especially for like junk removal. So I definitely think it helps stand out. I think it worked perfectly with the wrap and having like a nice smooth finish. There's not a lot of grooves to it, so it's easier to read. I was able to give it like a nice, clean, minimal look. So overall, I'm very happy with it. And some of those attachments that we kind of added on were just to really help with securement of the actual items inside. And then my brother came up with those two front black beams are really just to help with wind draft and keep the trailer kind of content. And the cool thing too is all of the the sides can come off. Everything's bolted into the ground or bolted into the original framing and piping of the utility trailer. The only thing that's welded on, which of course could be cut with a grinder if you wanted to, but the only thing that's actually welded on is those two front beams for the wind. And those are bolted into the sides. And we did that because there would be a possibility I may have to replace the boards in the trailer one day. And if that were to come, you know, obviously that would suck if everything was welded in, I couldn't get them out. So that was the idea behind that. So we kind of thought ahead and we thought about the most ideal alternative for my budget and my wants, which was to keep it lightweight but clean looking. So I think we nailed it, and it's something I would probably do with my next trailer as well. I actually already got the pricing from him for it. I think it's gonna be, if I do this 7x14, it's gonna end up being like $3,400. So an extra $400 for, you know, an extra 2.5 feet all around. So not too shabby. You wanna say hi? I normally only let Bubs say hi, but you're being really annoying. This is Biddy. She's not my favorite because she picks on my cat and she gets into everything. So yeah, overall, super content with everything. But yeah, that's it for me. Hopefully I answered you guys' question with the trailer. If I left anything out, comment it down below and I will be sure to answer to the best of my ability. I am not an expert when it comes to trailers. This is just what I've done and this is my experience. So take everything you hear with a grain of salt. But that's it for me. Hope you guys are staying busy and I will see you next time. Bye.